There is something undeniably dazzling about the image of a medieval mercenary. You can almost see him now, can't you? In your mind's quiet cinema as you lay back with your eyes closed, a lone rider beneath a gray dawn sky, his cloak rippling behind him as he moves across the frostbitten fields. Unlike the knight bound by vows to a lord, forced to guard lands he may not love, the mercenary's allegiance is to himself and the weight of coin in his purse. He chooses his battles, they say. He drinks when he pleases. He walks away when he wishes. There's a certain freedom in that, a sharp-edged promise of adventure wrapped in the cold steel of his blade. And people watch him in the muddy roads or near the smoky fires, and they think how free he must be. They watch the way he sharpens his sword in the half-light, the way he checks the straps on his horse, the way he looks past the horizon without fear. They think how strong, how untamed. And perhaps in that moment, under the soft hush of falling snow or the silent glare of the noon sun, even you might think that if you had to live in those days of banners and storms, perhaps you would choose to be a mercenary too. But the stories that last are not always the stories that are true. There are reasons, heavy and many, why few men truly chose this path unless they had nothing left to lose. There are truths behind the cold eyes and the battered armor, truths in the hunger that crawls into the bones and the debts that outlive the coin. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so we have more motivation to produce better quality products. And now, good night. But now, let's walk quietly through those truths together. Chapter 1. High death rates. You open your eyes within a dawn that smells of cold earth and damp straw. The sky above you the color of old tin, streaked with clouds that drift like forgotten sails across the morning hush. You are a mercenary now, in this quiet hour, and the world feels heavy around you as you pull yourself to your feet, brushing frost from your worn cloak. You are not a knight, tied to banners and oaths. You are not a farmer, tied to soil and seasons. You are a mercenary, and you go where the coin leads you, wherever the next campaign calls, wherever the drums sound in the stillness of dawn. They will tell you, with a certain admiration in their hushed tones, that mercenaries are fearless, that they ride out with steel glinting and laughter caught in their throats as they move toward the enemy lines. They will tell you that you stand with freedom in your heart, that you fight for yourself, that your blade is loyal to the weight of silver pressed into your palm. But they will not tell you what it feels like to stand in the front ranks when the arrows begin to fall. They will not tell you about the sound, that dreadful whine that grows from a whisper to a scream, the wind screaming around the feathered shafts, the sound of your breath caught tight in your throat, your knees locking as you brace for the rain of death that falls without mercy. They will not tell you about the man beside you, the way he swallows hard, the tremor in his hand as he grips the spear, the look in his eyes when he realizes that no amount of silver will stop what is coming. They will not tell you about the first man who falls, the arrow embedded deep in his neck, the way his eyes widen in disbelief before he crumples, and how you do not have time to help him, to close his eyes, to say a prayer, because you must keep moving forward. They will not tell you how often mercenaries die before the real battle even begins, as the sky darkens with arrows and ground is churned into mud, as screams rise in the morning fog, as the smell of blood begins to seep into the air. They will not tell you that you are cheaper than night, that your armor is thin, patched over many times, that your shield is old and cracked, that your helmet does not fit quite right, pressing into your brow until it aches. They will not tell you that the knights on their horses, with banners flying, will ride behind you, and you will stand in the mud and the fear and the cold to take the first blows. They will not tell you that even the smallest wound can be your ending. A gash on your arm, from a careless blade, will fester in the days that follow. The flies will find it, the fever will come, and you will lie shivering under a thin blanket, your breath ragged, the world around you spinning, as your comrades look away, knowing that there is nothing they can do, no surgeon, no priest, no miracle to save you. They will not tell you about the nights when you wake up in the dark, the fever in your blood, the taste of iron in your mouth, your hand pressed to the wound as if you could keep the sickness inside. They will not tell you that you will die with mud on your face, with the smell of wet earth in your nose, with your eyes turned to the stars you can barely see past the clouds. They will not tell you that the world will keep moving, that the battle will continue, that the coins you were promised will never reach your hand, that your family, if you have one, will never know where your bones lie. They will not tell you about the weight you feel in your chest when you see the enemy approaching, the long line of shields and spears, the banners waving in the cold wind, the drums pounding like a heartbeat you cannot control. They will not tell you about the moment you realize that no one will remember your name, that you are a shadow among shadows, a sword among swords, a life that will be spent like a coin, tossed into the mud of history. And yet you stand there as the wind pulls at your cloak, as the cold seeps into your bones, as the dawn slowly bleeds into a pale morning. You grip your spear, you check the edge of your blade, you take a deep breath, and you step forward when the horn sounds. Because you are a mercenary, and there is nowhere else to go. They will tell you that mercenaries are brave, that they are strong, that they are fearless. But bravery is not the absence of fear. It is a quiet acceptance of it. It is a knowledge that fear will walk beside you, that death will watch over your shoulder, that the cold hand of fate may close around your throat at any moment, and still, you take another step forward. You walk through fields littered with broken shields, with arrows snapped in half, with the soft shapes of the fallen covered in mist. You hear the crows calling in the distance, the slow flap of their wings as they circle above, waiting for the battle to end. You taste the iron of fear in your mouth. You feel the cold sweat running down your back, under the layers of cloth and leather that protect you less than you wish they would. You see the faces of men beside you, some young, with soft cheeks that have not yet felt the blade, some old, with lines etched deep by years of war, all of them watching the horizon where the enemy waits. You hear the prayers whispered in Latin, in French, in German, prayers to saints and to God and to mothers long gone. You hear the rustle of cloth, the soft clink of metal, the low, steady breathing of men who know what is coming. And you remember, in that moment, that being a mercenary is not about glory. It is about survival. It is about the cold mornings and the long marches, the nights spent under the stars of the earth as your bed, the endless hunger that gnaws at your belly, the fear that never quite leaves your bones. It is about the moments of silence before the storm, the moments when you wonder if this is the day your luck will run out. You march when told, your boots pressing into the soft mud, the frost still clinging to the edges of the grass, your breath misting in the cold morning air. Around you, the world is quiet in that tense, waiting way, as if the earth itself is holding its breath before the clash of steel. The leather straps of your worn jerkin creak softly with each step, and the weight of your sword at your side is a steady reminder that death is never far away. There is a rhythm to it, a slow drumbeat of footsteps, the crunch of frozen mud, the soft clatter of weapons, the whispers of men reciting prayers under their breath. You feel the fear sitting heavy in your stomach, but you push it down because there is no room for fear now. You tell yourself that you are ready, that you are strong, that the battle will pass, that you will survive, that you will collect your pay, that you will move on to the next field, the next town, the next promise of coin. But in the back of your mind, you know that the battlefield does not care about promises. It does not care about your dreams, your quiet hopes whisper in the darkness, your plans to buy a small plot of land, to find a warm place to rest. It does not care about the songs you once sang, about the laughter that still echoes in your memory, about the small joys you clutch tightly on nights when the cold is sharp enough to steal your breath. The battlefield cares only for the blood that will soak into its soil, for the lives it will claim, for the bones that will scatter across the mud. You reach the field and you see them, lines of men, shields raised, spears bristling like a forest of cold iron, banners fluttering in the breeze. You see the knights on their horses, their armor gleaming, their banners bright, the air around them alive with the restless energy of the waiting charge. But you're not on a horse. You are here in the mud, with your spear and your thin shield, your patched armor and your quiet fear. The horn sounds, and the world shifts. The men around you tighten their grips, their eyes narrowing, the prayers fading into silence. You can hear the wind, the faint call of a bird somewhere far away, the sound of your own heartbeat thundering in your ears. You take a breath, and you step forward. The arrows come first, darkening the sky like a sudden storm. They fall with a hiss and a thud, embedding themselves into shields, into the ground, into flesh. You see a man to your left jerk backward, an arrow protruding from his shoulder, his eyes wide with shock and pain. You hear the cries, sharp and sudden, the gasps and the groans, the way the air is filled with the sound of death arriving quietly, efficiently. You keep moving because there is no choice, because to stop is to die, because to falter is to fall beneath the feet of those behind you. The mud clings to your boots, sucking at each step, the weight of it growing heavier with every movement. Your hands are cold, your fingers stiff, the spear shaking just slightly as you tighten your grip, try and control the fear that threatens to spill over. The enemy is close now, their faces hard, their eyes like flint, their weapons raised. You see the flash of steel, the blur of movement, the sudden jolt as shield meets shield, as spear meets flesh, as the quiet of the morning is shattered by the cries of battle. You feel the impact, the push and the pull, the chaos that erupts around you, the way the world becomes a blur of motion and noise. You strike with your spear, the point finding its mark, the shock of it running up your arm, the wet warmth that splashes against your hand. You do not have time to think about the face of the man you have struck, the way his eyes widen, the way his breath catches, the way he falls. You move, you push, you fight. Because the only way to live is to keep moving, to keep fighting, to keep pushing forward to the mud and the blood and the cries. The battle feels endless, a swirl of noise and fear, of sweat and steel, of grunts and shouts, of the heavy, wet thud of bodies falling. You see men fall beside you, some with swords still clutched in their hands, some with shields raised in a final, futile defense. You see the blood soaking into the ground, the steam rising from in the cold air, the way the mud turns darker, thicker, as it mixes with the lifeblood of the fallen. You feel the ache in your arms, the burn in your lungs, the sharp pain of a cut along your forearm, the sting of sweat in your eyes. You keep moving, keep fighting, keep pushing, because there is no other choice, because the only way out is through, because the only way to live is to keep the blade moving, to keep the shield raised, to keep your feet steady in the shifting mud. And then, as suddenly as it began, it is over. The enemy falls back, the cries of the wounded rising into morning air, the clatter of weapons dropping, the slow, pained groans of men lying in the mud. You stand there, your breath ragged, your hands shaking, the taste of blood and fear in your mouth, the weight of your sword suddenly heavy in your hand. You look around and you see the field littered with bodies with broken weapons, with the fallen banners fluttering weakly in the breeze. You see men crawling, try to rise, calling out for help that will not come, reaching for sky with hands slick with blood. You see the crows circling, already descending, the slow, steady rhythm of their wings as they land near the bodies, unafraid, unhurried. You feel the exhaustion settle into your bones, the way your legs tremble, the way your arms feel as if they are made of lead. You taste the dryness in your mouth, the thirst that burns in your throat, the hunger that tightens your belly. You feel the weight of what you have done, the lives you have taken, the lives that have ended around you, the quiet, heavy truth that this is what it means to be a mercenary. You do not have the luxury of mourning the dead, of honoring their passing, of saying prayers that might ease their souls into whatever lies beyond. You have to move, to check your wounds, to find your comrades, to see who has survived, to gather what can be gathered, to prepare for the next march, the next battle, the next promise of silver that will buy you another day. Because the truth, the quiet, relentless truth, is that as a mercenary, you stand in the front lines because you're paid to do so, because your life is valued less than those who ride behind you, because your death is cheaper than theirs. You stand in the mud and the blood, in the cold and the fear, because there is no other path for you, because the world has left you with no other choice. And so you stand there, in the aftermath, the sky slowly brightening, the clouds drifting across the pale blue, the air filled with the scent of earth and blood and smoke. You stand there, and you breathe, and you take a moment to close your eyes, to let the silence fill you, to feel the weight of the day pressing down on your shoulders. You survived. Today, you survived. But tomorrow will come, and with it, another field, another dawn, another promise of coin, another battle, another chance for death to find you. You walk slowly across the field, your boots sinking into the soft mud. Each step a quiet reminder of the weight in your legs, the ache in your back, the dull throb of the cut on your arm. You step over fallen spears, over shields cracked and splintered, over the still forms of those who fought beside you and against you, their eyes staring up at the pale sky, their mouths open as they try and catch the last breath they never managed to draw. You do not look too closely at their faces. You cannot. You tell yourself it is for your own sanity, but you know that it is because you fear seeing your own reflection in the lifeless gaze of those who now lie silent. You fear seeing what you may become tomorrow, or the day after, or in the next battle that waits quietly in the distance, like a storm on the horizon. Your breath is visible in the cold morning air, a thin cloud that fades quickly, just as quickly as the warmth of life can leave a body. You feel the sweat dry on your skin, leaving behind the chill that seeps through the layers of cloth and leather, biting into your bones. You flex your fingers around the hilt of your sword, feeling the stickiness of blood, some yours, some not, the metal cold and heavy in your hand. Around you, other mercenaries move slowly, checking their gear, tending to the wounded who can still be saved, searching the bodies for coin, for food, for anything that might be of value. There is no shame in this. Not here, not now. It is the way of the field. The quiet agreement between the living and the dead that what is left behind may help another live a little longer. You find a piece of bread in the pouch of a fallen man, hard as stone, but you tuck it into your own pouch, knowing it may be the only food you find before the day ends. You find a strip of cloth that can be used to bind your arm, and you tear from the tunic of another, your hand steady, your mind quiet. You find a small coin pressed into the mud, and you take it, because it is what you are here for, in the end. You glance up and see the knights, their armor still bright, their horses restless, their banners lifted high. They speak quietly, making their plans, giving orders, discussing what comes next. They will move on, claim their victories, collect their spoils, while you and those like you clean the field, carry the wounded, bury the dead in shallow graves marked with nothing but a memory that will fade as quickly as the morning mist. And you understand, in that quiet moment, that for all the stories told of the glory of battle, for all the songs sung of heroism and valor, the truth is different here, in the mud and the blood, in the cold and the silence that follows the chaos. The truth is that death is the closest companion of a mercenary, that it walks beside you with every step you take, that it waits patiently, knowing that it will claim you one day, whether on the field, on the road, or in the dark of night when the fever takes hold. You move toward the edge of the field, where a small stream winds its way through the grass, the water clear and cold, washing away the blood from your hands, from your blade, from the cloth you dip into the water to clean your wound. You watch as the water runs red for a moment before the current carries the color away, leaving only ripples behind. The surface calm once more. You sit for a moment, your back against a tree, the rough bark pressing into your shoulders, the cold seeping up from the ground. You close your eyes, letting the sounds of the morning fill your mind. The soft rustle of leaves, the distant calls of crows, the quiet voices of other mercenaries as they speak in low tones, the clink of metal, the splash of water. You take a breath, slow and deep, feeling it fill your lungs, feeling the way it steadies the trembling in your hands, the way it pushes back the tightness in your chest. You take another breath, and another, letting the rhythm calm you, letting it remind you that you are still alive, that you have survived another battle, another dawn, another meeting with death. But in the back of your mind, you know that this is only the beginning, that there will be another call to arms, another march across cold fields, another dawn that brings with the promise of blood and fear and pain. You know that this is the life of a mercenary, a life measured in coin and blood, in the quiet moments stolen between battles, in the small victories of surviving another day. You think of the faces you saw on the field, the way their eyes looked as they fell, the way their hands reached out, the way their breaths left them in small clouds that faded quickly into the morning air. You think of the promises you made to yourself, the dreams you once held close, the hopes that now feel distant, almost forgotten, buried beneath the weight of what you have seen, what you have done, what you must continue to do. You open your eyes and look at the sky, at the pale blue that slowly deepens as the sun rises higher, at the thin clouds drifting across the light, at the way the world seems so quiet, so peaceful, even here, even now. You let yourself feel that peace for a moment, letting it settle into your bones, letting it wash over the weariness that clings to you. And then you stand, slowly, carefully, your body reminding you of every ache, every bruise, every cut that marks your skin. You adjust your cloak, check your sword, tighten the straps of your pack. You take one last look at the stream, at the field, at the sky, and then you turn away, stepping back onto the path that will lead you to the next place, the next battle, the next promise of silver that will buy you another day, another meal, another moment under the open sky. Because you are a mercenary, and this is what it means to live. It means standing in the mud and the blood, facing the cold breath of death and taking another step forward, because there is nowhere else to go, because the world is left with no other choice, because the promise of coin is the only promise that remains. You walk on, the weight of your pack pulling at your shoulders, the road stretching out before you, the horizon wide and empty, the wind cool against your face. You walk on, your footsteps steady, your breath even, your eyes fixed on the path ahead. You walk on because you must, because you have survived, because you are still here. And in that quiet, steady rhythm of your footsteps, in the slow, measured breaths you take, in the soft whisper of the wind through the grass, you find a small, fragile peace, a moment of calm in the endless march of your life. You find a moment to breathe, to exist, to be. Chapter 2, Unreliable Pay. There's a quiet, clinking sound that follows you wherever you go, the sound of coins rattling softly in a leather pouch tied to your belt. A reminder of why you walk these roads, why you carry the weight of steel across your shoulders, why you stand in fields where death whispers in every gust of wind. The promise of pay is what binds you to this path. The promise of silver pressed into your palm, of coin that will buy you bread, wine, a bed to sleep in for a night, a moment of warmth in a world that often feels cold and sharp. You think of that promise often as you walk, your boots scuffing against the hard-packed dirt of the road, the sky above a pale wash of dawn light, the breath of morning cool against your face. You think of it as you pass through villages still sleepy in the early hours, the smoke rising from the small fires of women baking bread, the quiet calls of roosters greeting the day. You think of it as you leave those villages behind, as the road stretches out before you in long, empty miles, as the weight of your pack pulls at your shoulders and the leather of your boots rubs against your heels. They promised you silver. They promised you gold. They promised you a share in the spoils, in the treasures taken from the fields and the cities, from the lords and the merchants who dared to resist the army that paid your wage. They promised you enough to buy a new cloak, to mend your boots, to send something home to the family you left behind, to save the day when you could leave this life behind, find a quiet place to rest, to grow old without the constant shadow of war at your back. You remember the first time you held the coin they gave you, the way it felt warm in your hand from the sun, the way it gleamed in the light, the promise it seemed to hold in its weight. You remember the way your heart lifted, the way you believed that this was the beginning of something better, that this was a path to something more than the hunger you had known, more than the cold nights spent under broken roofs, more than the fear that had followed you since the day you first held a blade. But the promises are thin, like the edge of a blade that has been sharpened too many times, like the paper-thin clouds that drift across the sky, there for a moment and gone the next. The coin they promise you is often slow to come, the payment delayed by excuses, and quiet words spoken by men who wear fine cloaks and ride horses that never taste the mud of the battlefield. They tell you that the funds will arrive after the next campaign, that the gold is coming from the city you just helped to take, that the silver is being counted, that you must be patient, that you must wait, and you do wait, because what else can you do? You wait as the days stretch into weeks, as the weeks stretch into months, as you march from one field to another, from one skirmish to another, your belly empty, your cloak thin against the cold, your boots worn through into your feet bleed with every step. You wait because you have no choice, because to leave is to walk into a world that is nothing for you, because to demand what you are owed is to risk the wrath of those who hold the purse strings, who decide who eats and who starves. You watch as the captains count the coin, as they weigh it carefully, as they slip pieces into their own pouches before the rest is handed out. The shares growing smaller, the promises growing quieter, the disappointment settling like a heavy stone in your chest. You see the way some men take what they can and leave in the night, slipping away into the darkness, hoping to find work elsewhere, hoping to find someone who will keep their word, who will pay them what they are owed. But many do not leave, because the roads are dangerous, because the world beyond the camp is cold and empty, because even the hope of payment is better than the certainty of hunger that waits beyond the edges of the army's reach. So you stay, tightening your belt against the hunger, wrapping your cloak tighter around you when the cold winds blow, telling yourself that the payment will come, that the silver will arrive, that the promise will be kept. There are days when the captains gather men, their voices raised, promising that the pay will arrive after the next siege, after the next city falls, after the next lord surrenders and opens his coffers to victors. They promise that the gold will flow, that the men will be rewarded for their bravery, for their loyalty, for the blood they have shed, and the fear they have faced. And you want to believe them, because it is easier to believe than to accept the emptiness in your pouch, the ache in your belly, the cold that seeps into your bones each night. You watch as the knights ride past you, their armor polished, their horses well-fed, their cloaks thick and warm, the coins they are paid heavy in their purses, payment given promptly because they are noble blood, because their names matter, because their deaths will mean something to someone with power. You watch as they do not see you, as they ride past without a glance, without a word, without a thought for the men who stand in the mud, who take the first arrows, who hold the line while the knights charge in glory. You learn to live with the hunger, with the cold, with the empty promises. You learn to hide your disappointment, to keep your voice low, to nod when the captains speak, to keep your eyes down when the coins are counted and you are given only a fraction of what you were promised. You learn to swallow your pride, to accept what you are given, to tell yourself that it is enough, that it will be enough, that the next campaign will bring more, that the next victory will finally fill your pouch, will finally buy you the freedom you have dreamed of since the day you first took up the sword. You watch as some men lose hope, as the hunger and the disappointment break them, as they turn to stealing from their comrades, from the villages they pass through, from the bodies of the fallen, taking what they can to keep themselves alive, to ease the ache in their bellies, to silence the gnawing fear that they will never have enough. You watch as fights break out over a handful of coins, over a piece of bread, over a warm cloak taken from the dead, as the men who once stood together on the field now turn on each other in the darkness of the camp. And you understand in those quiet, cold moments that the promise of pay is a chain that binds you as surely as any oath, as any vow, as any duty. You understand that the promise of silver is what keeps you here, what keeps you standing in the mud and the blood, what keeps you lifting your sword each morning as the dawn breaks, what keeps you walking down roads that lead only to more fields, to more battles, to more promises that may never be kept. Because even the hope of payment is better than the certainty of hunger. Even the thin promise of silver is enough to keep you moving, to keep you standing, to keep you fighting, to keep you alive for another day. There are coins, and then there are the coins that do not hold their promise when you bite down on them with your back teeth, testing the metal in the dim light of dawn, the edge of the silver cold and hard against your tongue. You learn quickly, as a mercenary, that not all coins are equal, that not all silver shines the same, that not all gold weighs what it should. You learn to weigh them in your hand, to feel the weight that tells you if it is real, to listen for the quiet, clean ring when it strikes another coin. You remember the first time you were paid, truly paid, a handful of silver coins pressed into your hand, warm from the captain's grip, the promise of all you had fought for shining in the light of a campfire that flickered and danced, the shadows long around you, the smoke drifting in the cold air. You remember the way your heart lifted, the way your hand closed around the coins, the way you believed, for that brief moment, that this was worth it, that the fear, the blood, the hunger, the endless walking down cold, empty roads was worth the weight in your hand. But coins, like promises, are not always what they appear to be. You learned this when you tried to spend them. When you held out your hand to the baker in a village that smelled of warm bread and would smoke, when you watched the way his eyes narrowed, the way his lips pressed into a thin line as he picked up one of the coins, turning it over his fingers, feeling its weight, inspecting its edges. You watched as he bit down on it, as he shook his head, as he pushed it back into your hand, the disappointment in your chest blooming like a bruise. This is not worth what you think it is, he told you, his voice low, his eyes tired, his hands dusted with flour. This is clipped, debased. It is not pure. It will not buy what you want it to buy. You tried to argue, to tell him that it was silver, that it was payment for your service, for the fear you carried into the battle, for the blood that had stained your hands, for the death you had seen, for the friends you had left behind on fields far from here. You tried to tell him that it was all you had, that it was supposed to be enough, but he only shook his head again, pushing the bread back toward you, telling you to take it, to leave, to go back to the road that waited outside the warmth of his shop. You learned then that payment was not just about the promise of coin, but about the value of the coin itself, about the honesty of the metal, about the trust that could be placed in the weight of what was pressed into your palm. You learned that some lords and captains would pay with coins that looked like silver but were mixed with lesser metals, that were clipped around the edges to steal small pieces of value, that were lighter than they should be, that rang with dull thud instead of clear note that true silver sings. You learned to watch the hands that paid you, to watch the way the coins moved, to listen to the sound they made when they fell together, to feel the weight in your hand, to test them in the darkness when no one was watching, biting down gently to see if they would bend, to see if the metal would betray its weakness. You learned to hide your disappointment when you realized you'd been paid with promises that would not hold in the light of day, with coins that would be refused in the markets, that would be turned away by the innkeepers, that would buy you nothing in the cold dawn when your stomach ached with hunger. You learned that in the world of mercenary, trust is a currency more rare than silver, more precious than gold, and that is often betrayed in the quietest ways, with the smallest cuts, with the lightest coins. You learn that to survive, you must learn to accept what is given, to find a few who will trade with you even when the coin is not true, to bargain with charm and quiet words, to promise to pay later, to promise favors, to promise protection, to promise anything that will buy you a meal, a bed, a brief moment of warmth. You learn that there were men who made their living from this dishonesty, who took the clipped coins from the lords and paid them down the line, passing the betrayal from hand to hand, until it reached the men who could least afford to lose its value. You learned that there were markets in larger towns where men stood with scales and weights, measuring each coin, testing each piece, taking a cut for themselves in exchange for exchanging your clipped silver for something more true, something more trusted, something you could use to buy a piece of bread, a cup of thin wine, a patch for your worn boots. You learned that there were other dangers in the coins you carried, that men would kill for them, even when they were not worth what they should be, that a pouch of false silver could still draw a blade in the night, could still draw greedy hands in the darkness, could still cost you your life. You learned to sleep with your hand on your pouch, with your back to a wall, with your eyes half open, listening for the softest sounds in the darkness, the careful steps of those who would take what little you had left. And in those quiet moments, in the darkness before dawn, when the camp was silent except for the soft breaths of men who dreamed uneasy dreams, you would take out your pouch and open it, letting the coins spill into your hand, letting them catch the light of the small fire you kept alive with careful patience, letting them glint and shine, letting yourself believe for a moment that they were worth what they should be, that they were enough, that they would buy you something more than the cold, and the hunger and the fear that clung to you like a second skin, because you needed to believe it. You needed to believe that the weight in your hand meant something, that the promises you've been given would one day be kept, that the silver you carried would one day buy you a bed in a quiet place, a meal that would fill your belly, a cloak that would keep out the cold, a life that would not end in mud and blood on a field far from home. You would close your hand around the coins, feeling their weight, their coldness, their promise, and you would hold them to your chest for a moment, letting yourself feel the small, fragile hope that they carried, letting yourself dream, for just a moment, of a life beyond the endless roads, beyond the endless marches, beyond the endless battles that waited with each dawn. And then you would slip them back into your pouch, tie it tightly, check the knots, tuck it beneath your cloak, and close your eyes, letting the darkness take you, letting the quiet whispers of sleep pull you away, letting yourself drift into dreams where the coins were true, where the promises were kept, where the silver you carried was enough to buy you the freedom you longed for, the peace you could almost taste, the life you could almost see waiting for you in the soft, warm light of morning. There is a quiet understanding that passes between mercenaries when payment is mentioned, a subtle lowering of voices, a shared look, the soft exhale that says, "We know," because payment in your world is not a promise etched in stone. It is not a certainty that arrives with the dawn. It is a hope that walks beside you, a shadow that flickers, sometimes close, sometimes far, sometimes vanishing altogether when you need it most. You learn early that as a mercenary, you have few tools to enforce the promises made to you. When a lord or a captain says, "You will be paid after the siege," you nod, because that is what you must do, because the promise of coin is what keeps your blade in your hand, your feet moving across muddy roads, your back straight as you face the ranks of the enemy. You nod, even though you have heard these words before, even though you have seen how easily those words turn into silence when the battle is over, when the city has fallen, when the spoils have been taken and counted behind closed doors where you are not invited to stand. You know what it feels like to wait, standing with your comrades in the cold dawn after a siege, the smoke still rising from the buildings behind you, the air thick with the scent of ash and blood, your armor still marked with the dark stains of battle, your eyes heavy from the weight of exhaustion. You stand there as the captains speak quietly among themselves as the lords ride past on their horses, their fine cloaks barely stirring the wind, as they talk of victory, of glory, of the next campaign that waits on the horizon. And you wait for the payment that was promised, your hand brushing against the empty pouch at your belt, your mind counting the days since your last meal, the nights spent sleeping on cold ground, the wounds that still ache with every breath. You wait because there is nothing else you can do, because to demand what you're owed is to risk the sharp end of blade, to risk the cold stare of the men who command the soldiers who stand with you, to risk being cast out from the only shelter you have. You have no power here. You have no name that carries weight, no title that demands respect, no land that gives you leverage. You are a mercenary, a sword for hire, a blade that is valued only for the blood it can spill, for the fear it can bring, for the battles it can win. And once the battle is over, once the victory has been claimed, your value fades, slipping away like the last warmth of a dying fire. You learn that promises are often made with ease in the days before a battle, when the captains need your blade, when the lords need your strength, when the army needs your presence in ranks to bolster their numbers, to stand in the front lines, to take the first blows so that others may ride in later and claim the glory. Promises are made with warm smiles and clasped hands, with words of honor and loyalty, with vows that speak of payment, of reward, of shares and spoils that will be taken. But promises, like the thin silver coins you've learned to distrust, often bend and break under the weight of reality. The spoils once taken are divided in quiet rooms where you're not allowed to enter, counted by hands that do not tremble, weighed by scales you cannot see. The lords take their share first. The captains take theirs next. The knights claim their portions. And by the time the line reaches you, there's often little left, the coins thin, the promises thinner still. You watch as men argue over what is left, their voices low and sharp, their hands clenched, their eyes dark with a hunger that does not leave them. You see the way the captains avoid your gaze, the way they speak of debts that must be paid elsewhere, of costs that must be covered, of expenses that were not foreseen. You see the way they shrug, as if your hunger is a burden they cannot carry, as if your wounds are your own fault, as if the promise they made was a gift they can take back without guilt. And you learn to swallow your anger, to hold it down deep where it cannot be seen, where it cannot betray you, because you need them even as they fail you, even as they break their promises, even as they hand you coins that are not enough to buy a meal, even as they tell you to wait until the next campaign, the next siege, the next victory, when payment will surely come. You learn to nod, to smile, to say, "Yes, my lord," to say, "Thank you, captain," to bow your head and step back into the line, to prepare your gear, to sharpen your blade, to tighten the straps of your armor, to ready yourself for the next battle that waits just beyond the horizon. Because to demand more is to risk everything, to risk the small, fragile place you have carved out in this world, to risk the thin shelter you have found among the other mercenaries, to risk the hope that still burns, however faintly, in your chest. You learn to take what is given and to make it last, to stretch a handful of coins across days and weeks, to barter with farmers for scraps of food, to sleep in barns and under hedges when the road grows too long, to mend your boots with scraps of cloth, to patch your cloak with pieces of old tunics, to keep moving even when your body cries out for rest, for warmth, for something more than the cold comfort of the earth beneath you. You learn to find small victories where you can, to take pride in the moments when you can buy a loaf of bread without haggling, when you can find a cup of wine to warm your belly, when you can pay for a night under a roof, even if it is just the floor of a crowded inn, the air thick with the scent of sweat and smoke, the sound of snoring men around you, the soft murmur of voices in the darkness. You learn to live in the small spaces between promises and reality, to hold on to moments when the payment does come, when the coins are real, when the promise is kept, even if only for a moment, even if only for a night. You learn to let those moments feed you, to let them keep you moving, to let them remind you why you keep walking, why you keep fighting, why you keep hoping. Because hope is a currency you trade in, as much as silver, as much as the blade you carry. Hope that the next payment will be fair, that the next promise will be kept, that the next dawn will bring something more than hunger and cold. Hope that you will survive, that you will endure, that you will find a way to keep moving forward, even when the road is long, even when the nights are cold, even when the promises are thin and fragile as the edge of your worn blade. You are a mercenary, and you have learned that the world does not owe you anything, that payment is not guaranteed, that promises are often as empty as the pouches you carry. But still you walk, you fight, you wait, because even in the coldest moments, even in the darkest nights, you carry the hope that one day the promise will be kept and the payment will come, and you will find a place where you can rest, where you can lay down your blade, where you can let yourself believe that all you have endured was worth it, that all you have lost has led you to something more. Chapter 3. Lack of medical care. There is a heaviness that settles into your limbs after battle, a quiet ache that speaks in the soft language of bruises blooming beneath your skin, of muscles that tremble with exhaustion, of cuts that sting when the cold wind touches them in the dawn. You feel it when you remove your cloak in the pale light of morning, when you unbuckle the straps of your armor, when you peel the leather from your shoulders and see the dark marks left by the weight you have carried. Sometimes it is only bruises, and you count yourself fortunate. You rub them gently, testing the soreness, the way the skin changes color from deep purple to yellow as the days pass, the way the ache fades slowly until it's only a memory, a reminder of the battle that is now behind you. You learn to live with these small pains, to carry them with you as you walk the roads, as you shoulder your pack, as you lift your sword again when the next call to arms comes. But sometimes it is more than bruises. Sometimes it is a cut, a deep line carved into your flesh by the edge of a blade, by the point of the spear, by the sharpness of an arrowhead that found its mark even as you raise your shield. You feel the heat of the blood as it spills, the stickiness of it on your hands, the way it soaks into the cloth you press against it, the way your breath catches in your throat as you try to keep your mind clear, to keep your feet steady, to keep your place in the line. You learn quickly that there is no one to care for you when the battle ends. There is no surgeon waiting with clean tools and soft bandages, no healer with gentle hands and warm water, no quiet room where you can lay your head while your wounds are tended. There's only the field, the mud, the cold, the restless shifting of the wounded as they search for a place to rest, as they press cloth to their wounds, as they bite down on strips of leather to keep from crying out. You watch as men try to help each other, their hands shaking, their voices low and strained, as they tear strips of cloth from cloaks and tunics, as they tie them tightly around arms and legs, as they press them against wounds that bleed too quickly, that soak the fabric in dark, heavy patches. You hear the groans, the sharp gasps, the quiet prayers whispered in many tongues, the soft pleas for help that go unanswered because there is no one here who can offer more than a strip of cloth, a muttered word, a hand pressed tightly against a wound that will not close. You see the fear in their eyes, the way they look around, searching for someone, for anyone who might know what to do, who might be able to help, who might be able to stop the bleeding, to ease the pain, to save the limb, to save the life. But there is no one, and you know it, and they know it. And so you look away, focusing on your own wounds, on your own breath, on the slow, steady beat of your heart as you press your hand against the cut on your arm, as you tie a strip of cloth around it, as you test it to see if it will hold. Sometimes the bleeding stops. Sometimes the wound closes rough and jagged, the edges pressed together by the tightness of cloth, the blood dry and hardening, forming a crust that holds you together as you move, as you walk, as you lift your sword again. Sometimes you are lucky and the wound heals, leaving behind a scar that you will carry with you, a mark of the battle you survived, a reminder of the day you did not fall. But sometimes the bleeding does not stop. Sometimes the wound is deep, too deep, the blood flowing too quickly, too freely, slipping through your fingers no matter how hard you press, soaking cloth until it's heavy and useless, pooling beneath you as you sink to your knees, as your vision darkens, as the cold seeps in and you feel your strength leaving you. Sometimes you die there on the field, among the mud and the fallen, your hand pressed to the wound, your eyes searching the sky, your breath fading into the cold air. And even if the bleeding stops, there is still the fear of what comes next. The fever that begins as a small warmth beneath your skin, that grows day by day, burning hotter, making your head spin, making your limbs heavy, making your thoughts slow and confused. You feel it in the night, as you lie beneath your cloak, as you shiver despite the heat that flushes your face, as you close your eyes and drift in and out of restless dreams, as you wake to find the wound hot to the touch, the edges red and swollen, the pain sharp and deep. You know what it means. You have seen it before, in the faces of other men, in the way they grow weaker with each passing day, in the way the light leaves their eyes, in the way their breath grows shallow, in the way they whisper prayers and names of loved ones as they slip away. You know that there is nothing to be done, that there is no medicine, no healer, no cure. You know that the wound, though small, is now a sentence, a slow march toward an end you cannot fight, no matter how strong you are, no matter how much you wish to live. You see men try to cut away the infection, their friends holding them down, their teeth clenched around strips of leather, their eyes wide with pain and fear, the knife heated in the fire before his press of flesh, the smell of burning, the screams that rise into the air, sharp and piercing, echoing across the camp. Sometimes it works, and the man survives, though he carries the mark of the blade, the memory of the pain, the fear of the fever that might still come. Sometimes it does not, and the man dies anyway, the wound too deep, the infection too strong, the fever too relentless. You learn to fear the small wounds as much as the large, to fear the scratches and the cuts that can become infected, that can grow into something deadly, that can take your life slowly, painfully, while you lie beneath the sky, counting the stars, wondering if you will see the dawn. You learn to clean your wounds with water when you can find it, to keep them covered, to watch them carefully, to pray that they will heal, that the fever will not come, that you will be spared. There is no comfort here, no certainty, no care that you can rely on. There is only the quiet knowledge that you are alone in this, that your life hangs by a thin thread, that each wound is a risk, that each cut is a danger, that each battle you survive may leave you an injury that will follow you into the days that come, a reminder how close death always is, how quickly it can reach out and take you. And so you learn to live carefully, to move carefully, to fight carefully, to avoid the blade when you can, to shield yourself when you can, to protect yourself because you know that there is no one else who will do it for you. You learn to count each day you live as a victory, each morning you wake without fever as a blessing, each step you take without pain as a gift, because you are a mercenary, and there is no one to care for you when you fall. There's only you, your blade, your will to live, and the quiet hope that you will see another dawn, that you will take another breath, that you will lift your sword again when the next battle comes. There's a soft sound that follows you in the days after a battle, the quiet rustle of cloth as you adjust your bandages, the small hiss that escapes your lips when your hand brushes against the wound, the faint rattle of your breath when you move too quickly, reminding you of the deep bruise along your ribs. It is a sound that becomes a part of you, a quiet companion that walks beside you as you travel the empty roads, as you sleep beneath the trees, as you wake with the dawn to the cold breath of morning air. In the world you inhabit, there is no room for rest, no place to recover fully before the next call to arms, the next campaign, the next promise of silver. There is only the endless road ahead, the long marches that leave your legs aching, the cold nights that seep into your bones, the weight of your armor pressing against cuts that have not yet closed, the stiffness in your joints that grows with each passing day. You know what it means to walk with wounds that have not healed, to feel the sharp pain in your side with every breath, to feel the dull throb of a cut that pulls at the edges when you move, to feel the warmth of fever building quietly beneath your skin as you walk beneath the gray sky, your hand brushing against your forehead, searching for the heat you know is there. You know the taste of blood in your mouth when you cough, the way your vision swims when you stand too quickly, the way your steps falter when the pain flares sharp and bright, forcing you to stop, to catch your breath, to swallow down the fear that rises in your throat. And yet, you keep walking, because there is no choice. Because the company moves on and you must move with it, your feet pressing into the mud, your eyes fixed on the road ahead, your thoughts quiet, turned inward, counting each step as a small victory. Because to stop is to be left behind, and to be left behind is to die alone on the side of the road, with no one to close your eyes, no one to speak your name, no one to mark the place where you fell. There are no healers in the company, no learned physicians with soft hands and bottles of clean wine and fine linen bandages. There are no clean halls where the wounded can be laid out in rows, their wounds cleaned and stitched, their fevers watched over by careful eyes, their bodies tended with care. There's only what you can carry, what you can find, what you can do with your own hands. Sometimes you find a man who knows a little more than most, who has learned how to stitch a wound closed with a curved needle, his hands rough and clumsy, the thread pulled tight, the pain sharp enough to make your vision darken, to make your breath catch in your chest, to make your teeth clench around a strip of leather as you hold yourself still. You thank him when it is done, even as the pain flares with every movement, even as the stitches pull at your skin, even as you know that infection may still come, that the wound may yet claim you in the days ahead. There is no clean water to wash the wounds, only the water from streams and rivers, often muddy, often carrying sickness within it. But it is all you have, and so you use it, splashing over cuts and bruises, cleaning away the blood and the dirt as best you can, hoping that will be enough, that it will keep the sickness away, that it will give you a chance to heal before the fever comes. Sometimes, men gather herbs along the road, leaves and roots that they have been told will help with the pain, that will keep the fever away, that will draw out the sickness from a wound. They chew them, they press them into poultices, they wrap them in cloth and bind them over the cuts, the scent of earth and bitterness filling the air, the hope that these small green things will save them shining quietly in their eyes. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it does not. You learn to endure the pain, to fold it into yourself, to carry it as you carry your pack, your sword, your shield. You learn to measure your steps, to breathe carefully, to move in ways that will not tear open a wound, that will not make the pain worse, that will not leave you gasping on the side of the road while the company moves on without you. You learn to accept the limitations of your body, to understand that you are not whole, that you are not healed, that you are simply mending in the quietest way you can, moving forward one step at a time. And you watch others, those who cannot keep moving, those who fall behind, those whose wounds are too deep, whose fevers burn too hot, whose breaths grow too thin, whose eyes lose their light as the days pass. You watch as they are left behind, wrapped in cloaks that are too thin to keep out the cold, lying on the side of the road, their hands clutching at the dirt, their eyes searching the sky as the company moves on, as the sound of footsteps fades into the distance. You see the fear in their eyes, the pleading, the quiet acceptance, the soft prayers whispered to saints who do not answer, to loved ones who will never know where they fell, to a God whose silence is as heavy as the cold morning air. You see the way they reach out, hoping for a hand to hold, for a promise that they will not be alone, for a moment of comfort in the darkness that grows around them. And you see the way the others look away, the way they tighten their grips on their weapons, the way they keep their eyes on the road, the way they move a little faster. Because to stop is to risk falling behind, to risk sharing the same fate, to risk the sickness that might come from touching the dying, from tending the wounds that have begun to smell of death. There is no room for softness here, no room for mercy, no room for the gentle care that might ease the passing of those who cannot go on. There is only the endless road, the call of the next battle, the promise of payment that waits somewhere ahead, the quiet, heavy truth that each man walks alone, even when surrounded by others, even when marching the company of many feet, even when sleeping close to the warmth of other bodies beneath the stars. You learn to carry this knowledge with you, to let it settle into your bones, to let it guide the way you live, the way you fight, the way you move through the world. You learn to be careful with your body, to protect it as best you can, to avoid the wounds that might slow you down, to guard against the sickness that waits in every cut, in every drop of water, in every cold breath of morning air, because you know that there is no help coming, no healer waiting, no warm hand to close your eyes if you fall. There is only you, your body, your will to live, and the quiet hope that you will see another dawn, that you will take another breath, that you will walk another mile, that you will find a way to survive in a world that offers you nothing but the promise of another day if you can endure. And so you do. You endure, because you must. There is a coldness in the early morning air that sinks deep into your bones when you wake, stiff and sore, beneath the thin cloak that barely keeps the dew from your skin. You feel it most in the places where old wounds live, places where blades have found you before, where arrows have grazed your flesh, where the deep bruises of war have left their mark on your body. These places ache in the cold, a dull, steady pain that reminds you of every battle you have survived, of every blow you have endured, of every moment when you stood beneath the gray sky and felt the world pressing in around you. In the world of a mercenary, wounds do not simply vanish once the bleeding stops. They linger, hidden beneath the skin, beneath the scars that cross your arms and legs, your back and shoulders, reminders of the life you live, of the path you had chosen, or perhaps the path that was chosen for you when there was nowhere else to go. They are reminders that healing, when it comes, is incomplete, that the body remembers every cut, every strike, every fall, that the pain returns with the cold, with the damp, with the long days of marching that stretch out across the endless roads. You learn to live with these pains, to carry them with you as you carry your sword, your pack, the small pouch of coins that rattles softly at your side. You learn to adjust the way you walk to ease the ache in your knee where a spear once struck you, to shift your pack on your shoulder to avoid the sharp pain that flares in your back where you fell hard on a battlefield, to slow your breathing when the tightness in your chest reminds you of the broken ribs that never healed quite right. There are days when the pain is a quiet companion, a soft reminder that you are alive, that you have survived, that you have lived through what others could not. It is a part of you now, as familiar as the weight of your sword, as constant as the hunger that sits in your belly, as steady as the road that stretches out before you. You learn to nod to it, to acknowledge it, to let it walk beside you without complaint, because there is no point in complaining, because there is no one to listen, because there is nothing to be done. But there are other days when the pain grows sharp and bright, when it takes your breath away as you rise from the cold ground, when it forces you to stop and catch yourself against a tree, your hand pressed to your side, your eyes squeezed shut as you wait for the wave to pass. Days when the old wounds flare with anger, swelling with heat, with redness, with sharpness that cuts deeper than any blade, when infection finds its way back into wounds you thought had long since closed. You know the signs now, the way the skin around an old wound grows hot to the touch, the way it swells, the way it throbs with a pulse that matches your own, the way the fever comes in the night, rising slowly, filling your head with heat, your mouth with dryness, your dreams with restless images of battles long past. You know the taste of fear that comes with the fever, the fear that this time it will not pass, that this time the infection will win, that this time you will not rise when the dawn comes. You have seen it happen to others, men who once stood tall beside you, who laughed around the fire, who shared their last piece of bread, who lifted their swords with strength and purpose. You have seen them grow pale, their eyes sinking into their faces, their breath coming in ragged gasps as the fever takes hold, as the infection spreads through their blood, as the strength leaves their bodies, as the light leaves their eyes. You have seen them shiver in the heat of the fever, their bodies shaking, their hands clutching at the blankets that cannot warm them, their voices whispering prayers to saints who do not come, to mothers who cannot hear them, to gods who remain silent in the darkness. You have watched as the others around them turn away, as the fear of sickness spreads through the camp, as men move their bedrolls further apart, as they avoid the touch of the sick, the breath of the dying, as they whisper quietly in the darkness, afraid of what the sickness might bring, afraid that they will be next. You have watched as the dying are left alone in their final hours, their hands reaching out for comfort that does not come, their eyes searching the darkness for faces that will not look back, their breaths growing weaker until they stop altogether, leaving only the stillness, the quiet, the cold. And when the fever passes, if it passes, you are left weakened before, your body thin and tired, your strength slow to return, your wounds still aching with every movement, your mind filled with the memory of the heat, the fear, the darkness that pressing around you as you lay beneath your thin cloak, wondering if you would see another dawn. You rise slowly, carefully, testing your legs, your arms, your breath, feeling the sharpness of the wounds that have not fully healed, feeling the weakness that lingers in your blood, knowing that you must move, that you must continue, even if your body is not ready, even if the pain follows you with every step. There is no time to rest, no time to recover, no time to let the body heal as it should. The road calls, the next battle waits, the promise of payment, thin and uncertain, pushes you forward. And so you walk with the pain, with the weakness, with the fear that the sickness will return, that the wounds will open again, that the infection will find you once more, that the fever will come back in the night, burning away the strength you have managed to regain. You learn to accept this, to live with it, to carry it as you carry everything else. Because you have no choice, because there is no healer waiting to tend your wounds, because there is no warm place where you can rest, where you can heal, where you can wait until your strength returns. There is only the endless road, the cold dawn, the weight of your sword, the quiet prayers you whisper to yourself as you move forward, hoping that today will not be the day your body fails you, that today will not be the day the fever returns, that today will not be the day you fall behind. And so you walk, and so you fight, and so you live, carrying the old wounds, the unhealed injuries, the quiet pain that never leaves you, the constant reminder that in the world of mercenary, there is no true healing, only survival, only endurance, only the hope that you will see another dawn, that you will take another breath, that you will live to fight another day. Chapter 4. Poor nutrition and food shortages. There is a hollow place in your belly that never quite goes away, a quiet emptiness that follows you like your shadow as you walk the long roads, as you sit by the cold embers of a dying fire, as you lie awake beneath your thin cloak, listening to the restless breathing of the men around you. Hunger is a constant companion in the life of a mercenary, a reminder with every step that the promise of silver is not the promise of bread, that victory on the field does not always fill the pot, that survival is not the same as being fed. You wake each day with that hunger, feeling the ache in your stomach as you roll over, as you pull your cloak tighter around you, as you press your hand to your belly, trying to quiet the growl that comes in the silence before dawn. You rise slowly, your limbs stiff, your head light, your mouth dry, your body reminding you of how long it has been since you last felt truly full, since you last tasted a meal that satisfied the deep, gnawing need that lives within you. In the life you live, food comes when it comes, and it is never certain, never promised, never guaranteed. Sometimes, after a victory, there's food to be found, taken from the stores of a captured town, gathered from the frightened hands of villagers who watch as the soldiers move through the streets, gathering sacks of grain, wheels of hard cheese, baskets of root vegetables pulled from the earth. You take what you can because it is what you must do, because the hunger does not wait, because the emptiness within you demands to be filled. But even then, there is never enough. The officers and captains take their share first, the knights take theirs next, and what is left is divided among the men who stood in the mud and the blood, who held the line, who faced the arrows and the blades, who bled so that others might claim the victory. You take your portion, a crust of bread that is hard and dry, a handful of grains that must be boiled into a thin, watery gruel, a small piece of cheese that you ration carefully, cutting it into thin slices, letting it rest on your tongue so that you can taste it just a little longer. And there are days when there is nothing at all, when the stores are empty, when the supply lines fail, when the land you pass through offers nothing but the cold wind and the hard earth. You search the fields for wild onions, for bitter greens, for roots that can be dug up with your hands, washed in the cold water of a stream, eaten raw if there is no fire to cook them. You watch the birds overhead, wishing you could bring one down, wishing for the taste of meat, for the warmth of fat, for the fullness that comes from a real meal. At night, you lie beneath your cloak, your belly empty, your mind filled with memories of food you once knew, warm bread fresh in the oven, the sweetness of an apple, the rich taste of meat cooked over a fire, the comfort of a bowl of thick stew on a cold night. You remember these things, and you press your hand to your stomach, and you tell yourself that tomorrow you will find something, that tomorrow you will eat, that tomorrow the emptiness will fade, even if only for a moment. Thirst is another hunger, a dryness that cracks your lips, that coats your tongue, that makes your head heavy and your thoughts slow. Water is as precious as food, and in the life of a mercenary, it is just as uncertain, just as rare, just as dangerous. The streams and rivers you find along the roads are often the only sources you have, and you drink from them because you must, because your body cries out for water, because the thirst is stronger than your fear what the water may carry. You have seen what happens when the water is bad, when sickness waits in the clear surface of a stream, hidden in the coolness, in the promise of relief. You have seen men drink deeply, their faces filled with the simple pleasure of water washing away the dryness, only fall sick days later, their bellies twisting in pain, their bodies weakening, their strength fading as the sickness takes hold. You have seen the way their faces grow pale, the way their eyes sink into their skulls, the way their breaths grow shallow, the way they reach out for help that cannot come. And yet, you drink, because you must. Because thirst is a fire that burns within you, that dries your mouth, that makes your head pound, that makes your body weak. You cup the water in your hands. You drink it down. You feel it cool and clean for a moment as it slides down your throat. And you pray that this time it will not bring sickness, that this time will give you strength, that this time it will help you walk another mile, fight another battle, live another day. There are days when the thirst and the hunger come together, when your belly is empty and your mouth is dry, when your body feels light and heavy at the same time, when your legs tremble beneath you as you walk, when your vision blurs as you look toward the horizon, searching for the glint of water, for the promise of food, for anything that will ease the endless emptiness that lives within you. You walk on because you must, because there is no other choice, because the promise of payment lies somewhere ahead, because the road does not wait for those who are hungry, for those who are thirsty, for those who are weak. Asterisk. There are times when hunger becomes more than just an ache, when it becomes a pain that sharpens with every step, when it becomes a weakness that pulls at your limbs, that makes your head spin when you stand, that makes your thoughts slow and heavy. During long marches, when the roads stretch endlessly before you, when the land around you is empty, when the villages are abandoned or stripped bare, there is nothing to be found, nothing to eat, nothing to ease the hunger that grows with each passing day. You ration what little you have, counting the pieces of hard bread in your pouch, measuring a handful of grains you carry, drinking water to fill the emptiness, telling yourself that it will be enough, that you can endure, that you can make it to the next place, to the next promise of food. You watch as others do the same, their faces growing thinner, their eyes more hollow, their bodies weaker with each step, their hands trembling as they hold their weapons, as they lift their packs, as they pull their cloaks tighter around their thinning bodies. During sieges, the hunger becomes something else entirely, a force that shapes every thought, every breath, every moment. Food runs out quickly when you are trapped within walls, when the roads are cut off, when the enemy surrounds you and waits for the weakness to set in. You watch as the rations grow smaller, as the lines for food grow longer, as the men around you grow quieter, their movements slower, their eyes fixed on small pieces of bread they are given, on the thin broth that barely warms their bellies. You hear stories, whispers in the darkness, of what hunger can drive men to do, of the choices that are made when the body cries out for food, when the emptiness becomes a scream that cannot be silenced. You push those thoughts away, focusing on the small meals you can find, on the careful rationing of what you have, on the hope that the siege will end before the hunger takes everything from you. At night, you lie beneath your cloak, your body curled against the cold, your belly empty, your mind filled with dreams of food, of warmth, of the fullness that you once knew, that you hope to know again. You wake of the hunger still there, a quiet pain that greets you with the dawn, a reminder that a day will be another day of searching, of rationing, of enduring, of hoping that tomorrow will bring something more. You learn to live with this hunger, to accept it, to carry it with you as you carry your sword, your shield, your hopes for payment, for a future that feels distant and fragile. You learn to take joy in small meals, in the moments when you can fill your belly, even if only for a night, even if only with a thin soup, with a piece of bread, with a handful of wild greens gathered by the roadside. Because you are a mercenary, and this is the life you live, a life where hunger is a constant companion, where the promise of payment is not the promise of food, where survival is measured in the small victories of finding a meal, of drinking clean water, of waking to see another dawn with the strength to rise, to walk, to fight, to endure. And so you do, step by step, breath by breath, hunger and all. Chapter 5, Harsh Living Conditions. There is a particular quietness that comes in the hour before dawn, when the world is still wrapped in darkness and the cold breath of the earth rises in a thin mist that clings to grass and the stones. It is a time when your breath is visible, when your body is curled beneath your cloak, when the ground beneath you is hard and unyielding, and the ache in your bones reminds you that you are alive, that you have survived another night, that you have endured. Even if you have not rested, you wake slowly, your body stiff, your muscles tight, your back sore from the hardness of the ground, from the stones that press against you as you slept, from the cold that settled into your limbs during the night. You open your eyes to the darkness, to the soft sound of breathing around you, to the distant rustle of wind through the trees, to the quiet murmur of men who wake before the dawn, who sit in silence, wrapped in their cloaks, waiting for the light to return. This is a life of a mercenary, a life lived close to the ground, close to the cold, close to the hard reality that there is no comfort here, no softness, no warmth that lasts beyond a brief heat of fire that dies quickly in the wind. You learn to find sleep where you can, when you can, wherever the road and the campaign allow. There is no promise of a bed, no promise of shelter, no promise of warmth when the sun goes down and the darkness settles in. You sleep beneath trees when you find them, their branches offering thin protection from the wind and the rain, their leaves rustling softly above you as you close your eyes and let the weariness pull you down. On other nights, you sleep in open fields, the grass cold and damp beneath you, the dew soaking through your cloak, leaving your clothes wet and clinging to your skin when you wake. You feel the chill in your bones, a coldness that does not leave you even when the sun rises, even when you stand and begin to walk again, even when you lift your sword and prepare for battle. It is a coldness that settles into you, that becomes a part of you, that reminds you that you are alive, that you are still here, that you are still moving forward. When it rains, you do what you can to find shelter, huddling beneath your cloak, beneath a rocky outcrop, beneath the bare branches of a tree, the water dripping onto your face, soaking your hair, sliding down your neck in cold, thin streams that make you shiver. You close your eyes and wait for the rain to pass, knowing that it will leave the ground muddy and slick, that it will make the road harder, that it will soak your boots and leave your feet raw and blistered, that it will test your endurance in quiet, relentless ways. There are nights when the frost settles on the grass around you, when your breath is a cloud in the darkness, when you curl into yourself, pressing your arms against your chest, your knees against your belly. Try and keep the warmth of your body close. Try and protect yourself from the cold that seeps into you, that makes your teeth chatter, that makes your limbs ache with stiffness when you wake. You share what warmth you can with the men around you. Sleeping close when the cold is at its worst, your bodies pressed together, your cloaks pulled tight around you, your breaths mingling in the cold air, the quietness of the night broken only by the soft sounds of sleep, by the occasional cough, by the shifting of bodies seeking warmth, seeking comfort, seeking the small, fragile promise of rest. You learn to accept the cold, to accept the wet, to accept the hardness of the ground, to accept the discomfort as a part of the life you live, as a part of the path you walk, as a part of the price you pay for the promise of silver, for the promise of survival, for the promise of another day. Asterisk, the camps where you rest, where you gather with your comrades, where you prepare for battles to come, are not places of comfort, not places of safety, not places where you can lay down your burdens and find peace. They are places where sickness moves quietly through the ranks, where the fleas and the lice crawl beneath your clothes, biting your skin, leaving small red marks that itch and burn, that become infected if you scratch them too hard, that remind you of the filth that surrounds you, of the dirt that clings to your skin, to your hair, to your clothes. You try to clean yourself when you can, washing in cold streams, scrubbing your skin with rough cloth. Try to remove the dirt and the sweat. Try and feel clean, if only for a moment. But the cleanliness does not last, and the dirt returns and the lice return, the fleas return, biting and crawling, their presence a constant irritation that you cannot escape, that you cannot ignore, that you cannot defeat. At night, you feel them moving on your skin, in your hair, in the seams of your clothes, and you scratch and you shift, and you try to sleep despite the discomfort, despite the knowledge that you are never truly clean, that the filth is a part of you now, as much a part of you as the hunger, as the cold, as the weight of your sword. The rodents come, too, drawn by the scraps of food, by the warmth of bodies, by the promise of easy pickings in the darkness of the camp. You see them in the night, their small shapes moving through the shadows, their eyes glinting in the light of the dying fire, their quiet squeaks breaking the silence. You see the way they dart beneath the blankets of the sleeping, the way they nibble at the crumbs left behind, the way they bite at the hands of those too weak to move, too tired to care, too close to death to notice. You know that they carry sickness, that their presence brings disease, that their bites can fester, can become wounds that do not heal, that become infected, that bring fever, that bring death. You know this, and yet there is nothing you can do, because the rodents will come, and the lice will come, and the fleas will come, and you will endure, because you must, because there is no choice, because this is the life you live. In this life, Privacy is a luxury you do not know, a comfort you do not have, a softness you do not feel. You live surrounded by others, by the men who walk the same road, who carry the same burdens, who fight the same battles, who share the same hunger, the same cold, the same fear. You sleep beside them. You wake beside them. You march beside them. Your lives intertwine in the struggle to survive, to endure, to keep moving toward the promise of silver that waits somewhere ahead. There is no place to hide, no place to rest alone, no place to let down your guard, no place to be anything other than what you must be: a mercenary, a soldier, a survivor. You relieve yourself in the open, your back turned to the others, your eyes scanning the horizon, your ears listening for the sounds of danger, for the approach of enemies, for the quiet rustle of someone moving too close in the darkness. You wash when you can, your body exposed to the cold, to the eyes of others, to the wind that cuts across your skin, leaving you shivering as you pull your clothes back on, still damp, still cold, still carrying the scent of the road. You dress and undress in the open. You clean your wounds in the open. You sleep in the open, your body vulnerable to the eyes of others, to the cold of the night, to the rain that falls without mercy, to the sickness that moves to the camp in quiet waves, to the danger that is never far, that is always near, waiting, watching, ready to strike. You learn to live without privacy, to live without comfort, to live without the softness that others know, that others take for granted, that others expect. You learn to find your moments of peace where you can, in the quiet breath before dawn, in the warmth of the sun on your face as it rises, in the small moments when you close your eyes and let the world fade for just a moment, for just a breath, for just a space between heartbeats. You learn to accept that this is your life, that this is a path you walk, that this is the price you pay for the promise of silver, for the promise of survival, for the promise of another day. You learn to endure, to persist, to keep moving, to keep fighting, to keep living, even in the harshness, even in the discomfort, even in the cold, even in the hunger, even in the dirt and the sickness and the fear. Because you are a mercenary and this is the life you live, and there is no other choice. Chapter 6. Constant instability. There is a road that stretches endlessly before you, winding through valleys heavy with mist at dawn, across hills where the wind sighs against the tall grass, through forests where the shadows linger long after sunrise, and over rivers where the water glitters coldly beneath the pale light of the moon. It is a road that knows your footsteps well, that carries the imprint of your weary boots, that remembers the sound of your quiet breath as you walk beneath the endless sky, searching for the promise that keeps you moving forward. For a mercenary, there is no home that waits with a warm hearth and soft bed, no place to return to where your name is known and your presence is welcome, no room that holds your belongings safe while you walk the world. The road is your home, the sky your roof, the earth your bed, the promise of silver your constant companion, and the weight of your sword the only certainty you carry. You learn to live from place to place, never settling, never staying, never allowing yourself to believe that the ground beneath your feet will hold you for more than a few days. You arrive in a town with a company, your presence tolerated for the promise of coin you will spend, the fear you will protect them from, the enemies you will keep at bay. You eat their bread, drink their ale, sleep in their barns or under the eaves of their houses, your sword close at hand, your eyes half open even in sleep, listening to the sound of the night, to the creak of doors, to the whisper of feet on the straw. And then you leave, moving on when the captain calls, when the contract ends, when the silver runs dry, when the road beckons once more. You leave without farewell, without promise, without looking back, because there is nothing to hold you, nothing to keep you, nothing that belongs to you in the places you pass through. You are a stranger wherever you go, a traveler with no name that matters, with no story that anyone wishes to hear, with no roots that reach into the soil, with no ties that bind you to any place or any person. The road teaches you to pack quickly, to leave without hesitation, to let go of what cannot be carried, to take only what you can hold in your hands, what you can carry on your back, what you can keep close to your body as you walk. You learn to travel light, to move quietly, to keep your belongings tied tightly in your pack, to keep your cloak wrapped around you, to keep your boots laced even as you sleep, ready to rise and move at a moment's notice, ready to walk once more into the gray dawn that waits for you. There's a loneliness in this constant movement, a quiet ache that settles into your bones alongside the cold and the hunger, a longing that drifts through your mind as you watch the fires burn low at night, as you listen to the soft breathing of the men around you, as you look up at the stars and wonder what it would be like to stop, to stay, to belong. But you push that longing away because there is no place for it, because there is no time for it, because the road does not wait, and the life you live does not allow you to stay. You learn to find your home in the small moments, in the warmth of the fire on your hands after a cold march, in the comfort of a piece of bread shared with a comrade, in the brief laughter that rises around the camp when a story is told, in the quiet companionship of men who walk the same road, who carry the same burdens, who live the same life, even if only for a while, even if only until the next march begins. Asterisk, the road is not a safe place, and the world beyond the walls of the cities and the towns is filled with dangers that wait in the darkness, in the forests, in the quiet places where the shadows gather. You know this, and you live with it, because you must, because there is no other way to walk the road, because the danger is as much a part of your life as the hunger, as the cold, as the constant movement that drives you forward. There are enemies that wait for you, enemies that you know, enemies that you have fought before, enemies that you will fight again, lords who refuse to pay, towns that close their gates against you, soldiers who see you as nothing more than thieves with swords, ready to be driven away, ready to be killed if you do not leave quickly enough. You learn to watch these enemies, to listen for the sound of their horses, for the creak of their armor, for the soft rustle of their movements in the darkness. And there are bandits, too, men who live in the forest, who wait in the shadows, who watch the road for travelers who walk alone, for companies that grow too weary, too careless, too comfortable. They strike quickly, with blades that flash in the moonlight, with arrows that hiss through the trees, with hands that grab at your pack, at your cloak, at your life. You learn to guard your camp, to set watches in the night, to keep the fires burning low, to listen to the silence and hear the sounds that do not belong, the crack of a branch, the rustle of leaves, the quiet breath of men who wait for the moment to strike. There are rival mercenaries, too, men like yourself who walk the same roads, who carry the same hunger, who fight for the same silver, who see you not as a comrade, but as a rival, as competition, as an enemy when the contracts are scarce and the coin is thin. You know the look in their eyes when you meet them on the road, the way their hands drift to their weapons, the way their bodies tense, the way the air grows heavy with the possibility of violence, with the possibility of blood, with the possibility of death. You learn to walk carefully, to speak carefully, to watch the faces of those you meet, to watch the movement of their hands, to watch the way their eyes shift, to read the tension in their bodies, to sense the danger that lies beneath the surface of every encounter, of every meeting, of every moment on the road. You learn to keep your hand close to your sword, to keep your eyes open, to keep your senses sharp, because danger is never far, because violence can come quickly, because death can find you in the quietest moments, in the calm before the dawn, in the stillness before the storm. Living without stability means living without certainty, and living without certainty means living with a constant weight that presses against your mind, against your heart, against your spirit. Each day you rise, not knowing where you will sleep that night, not knowing what you will eat, not knowing where the road will lead, not knowing if you will see the next dawn. Each day you rise, carrying the weight of that uncertainty, carrying the burden of the unknown, carrying the quiet fear that whispers in your mind as you walk. You do not know when the next battle will come, when the next contract will end, when the next march will begin. You do not know when the silver will run out, when the food will run dry, when the sickness will come, when the wound will find you, when the blade will strike, when the arrow will fall. You do not know when your strength will fail, when your will to walk will falter, when your body will collapse beneath you on the road, when the end will come, quiet and cold and alone beneath the endless sky. And so you learn to live with this uncertainty, to carry it as you carry everything else, to fold it into yourself, to let it settle beside the hunger, beside the cold, beside the fear, beside the hope that flickers quietly within you, fragile and small, but still alive. You learn to find your moments of peace where you can, in the warmth of a fire, in the laughter that comes unexpectedly, in the taste of bread after a long hunger, in the softness of dawn light on your face, in the quiet breath before sleep. You learn to live day by day, step by step, breath by breath, moment by moment, because that is all you have Because the future is a promise that may not come, because tomorrow is a hope that may not arrive, because the road is long and the journey is hard and the path is uncertain. You learn to endure, to persist, to continue, because you must, because there is no other choice, because this is the life you live, the path you walk, the burden you carry, because you are a mercenary, and this is the price of the freedom you thought you were choosing, the price of the silver you thought would buy you safety, the price of the life you live, a price paid in uncertainty, in fear, in loneliness, in the endless, restless movement of feet on the road, a breath in the cold air, of hope that remains even when everything else has been taken. And so you continue, and so you endure, and so you live, one step at a time, one breath at a time, one dawn at a time, on the road that never ends. Chapter 7. Forced to pillage. There is a heaviness that comes when the silver runs out, when the hunger becomes sharper than the edge of your blade, when the promises made by captains and lords fade into silence, leaving only the empty rattle of a coin pouch that holds nothing but air. It is a heaviness that presses into your chest, that sits in your belly, that clouds your thoughts as you walk, as you sleep, as you wake, reminding you with every breath that the road offers no mercy, that hunger will not wait for the next contract, that the world does not care for your need. In these moments, when the road stretches out before you and the cold wind carries the scent of distant hearth fires you will never sit beside, the choice becomes clear in its cruel simplicity. You can die with your honor, or you can live with the stain of what you must do. For a mercenary, the promise of silver is what draws the sword, but the hunger is what keeps it sharp. And when the silver is gone, when the contract is thin, when the promises are broken, the hunger remains, whispering in the empty places of your body, in the quiet spaces of your mind, telling you that you must take what you need, that you must do what you must survive, that there's no shame in living, even if it means taking what belongs to others. You do not wake up one day and decide to become a thief. It happens slowly, quietly, in the long days of hunger, in the nights when the cold keeps you awake, in the moments when you watch the last of your bread disappear, when the ache in your belly grows so deep that it feels like it is part of your bones. You see a village in the distance, smoke rising from the chimneys, the promise of warmth and food lingering in the air. You see the fields, the small plots of land where vegetables grow, the coops where chickens wander, the barns where grain is stored. And you feel the hunger, the emptiness, the coldness inside you that reminds you that you have nothing, that you are nothing, that you will die if you do not eat, that you will die if you do not take what you need. You tell yourself that you will only take what you must, that you will leave enough behind, that you will not harm those who live there. You tell yourself that this is not who you are, that you are a soldier, a mercenary, a man who fights for pay, not a thief who sneaks into homes in the dead of night. But when you feel the weight of your ribs beneath your skin, when you feel the trembling in your legs as you walk, when you feel the weakness in your arms as you lift your sword, you know that hunger does not care for honor, that hunger does not care for your promises to yourself. And so you take the eggs from the nests, the bread from the cupboards, the grain from sacks. You take what you need to live, because the road offers no food, because the cold offers no warmth, because the hunger will not let you rest until it's quieted. You take, and you tell yourself that you will repay it one day, that you will make amends, that you will find a way to give back what you have taken. But deep down, you know that the road does not allow for repayment, that the life you live does not allow for redemption, that the hunger will return, and that you will take again when the need comes, because there is no other choice, because survival demands it. Asterisk, the people you take from do not forget. Their eyes follow you as you leave, as you walk away with the food they need for their children, with the warmth they need for the winter, with the hope they have stored in sacks and barrels and cupboards for months to come. Their eyes are heavy with fear, with anger, with hatred, and you feel it on your skin as you walk away, as you taste the bread you have taken, as you swallow the food that fills your belly for the first time in days. You see the way they look at you, the way they clutch their children to their chests, the way they hold each other, the way they weep when you turn your back. You hear the curses they call after you, the promises of revenge, the prayers of their saints and their gods that you will suffer for what you have done. You feel the weight of their hatred pressing into your back as you leave, as you return to the road, as you try to forget the faces that will haunt your dreams. Sometimes, the reprisals come quickly. A group of men with farm tools, with knives, with stones, waiting in the darkness along the road, their faces hard, their hands shaking, their voices quiet as they plan how to take back what you have stolen, how to make you pay for what you've done, how to make you feel the hunger they now feel, the fear they now live with. You fight because you must, because the road demands it, because the hunger has led you here, because there is no turning back, because there is no room for mercy in a world with a strong take and the weak suffer. You fight, and when it is over, you leave more hatred behind you, more fear, more anger, more sorrow, and you carry the weight of it with you as you walk, as you sleep, as you wake, as you live. The first time you take, you feel the shame burn in your chest, the guilt pressing into your mind, the memory of your mother's face, of your father's voice, of the life you once thought you would live, of the man you once thought you would become. The first time, you tell yourself that it will be the last, that you will find another way, that you will not let the hunger turn you into something you despise. But the hunger returns, and the need returns, and the silver does not come, and the promises remain unfulfilled, and the road offers nothing but emptiness. And you take again and again and again until the shame becomes quieter, until the guilt becomes a whisper, until the memory of the man you wanted to be fades into the distance, into the darkness, into the cold wind that blows across the fields as you walk. You tell yourself that you are a mercenary, that you are not a thief, that you are not a bandit, that you are not a villain. But the law does not see it that way. The lords do not see it that way. The villagers do not see it that way. They see your sword, your hunger, your willingness to take, your need to survive, and they call you thief, bandit, murderer. They place bounties on your head. They send men to hunt you. They call for justice, for vengeance, for blood. You live with the knowledge that you are hunted, that your presence brings fear, that your footsteps bring whispers of danger, that your face is remembered in places where you have taken, where you have stolen, where you have done what you must live. You live with the knowledge that your honor has eroded, that your name has become a curse in the mouths of those you have wronged, that your path is stained with the sorrow of those who have suffered because of you. And yet you walk, because you must, because there is no other way, because the hunger does not care for honor, because survival does not care for reputation, because the road does not care for the name you once carried with pride. You walk, step by step, breath by breath, carrying the weight of what you have done, carrying the memory of the faces you have left behind, carrying the knowledge that this is who you have become, because you are a mercenary, and this is the life you live, a life that demands a price for every day you survive, a price that is paid in the hunger you quiet with stolen food, in the fear you leave behind you, in the shame you carry within you, in the knowledge that you will do it again if the need comes, because the road does not allow for weakness, because the road does not allow for mercy, because the road does not allow for anything but survival. And so you continue one step at a time, one breath at a time, one dawn at a time, carrying the weight of the life you have chosen, the life that has chosen you, the life that demands everything you have, everything you are, everything you might have become. Chapter 8, No Social Status. There is a quiet truth that follows you on every road you walk, in every village you pass, in every camp where you sleep beneath the stars or in the mud near the dying embers of a small fire. You are nothing. You are no one. You are a mercenary, a blade for hire, a body that can be bought for silver, a sword that will swing for whoever can pay, a shadow that passes and leaves nothing behind. In a world of lords and peasants, of knights and craftsmen, of priests and merchants, you belong nowhere. You do not have a patch of earth to call your own. You do not have a roof to rest beneath. You do not have a place where your name is known, where your face is welcome, where your presence brings warmth instead of fear, where your footsteps are heard without suspicion, where your voice is answered without caution. You walk through villages where men to the earth they have worked since childhood, where women draw water from wells built by fathers and grandfathers, where children run barefoot over the same paths their mothers ran when they were young. You see the way they look at you, the way their eyes slide away, the way their hands tighten on the handles of their tools, the way they gather their children closer, the way the air thickens with tension as you pass. They do not see you as one of them, because you are not. You do not have a place among them. You do not have land to return to when the campaign is over. You do not have a small hut with smoke rising from its chimney. You do not have a place at the table when the day's work is done. You are a wanderer, a sword bearer, a reminder of the violence that can arrive without warning, of the hunger that drives men to take what they need, of the fear that lingers in the hearts of those who have something to lose. You see the lords on their horses, riding through the fields, their cloaks bright, their armor polished, their heads held high as they survey the land they own, the people who work for them, the wealth that grows beneath the sun. You see the way they speak with confidence, the way they command with a word, the way they are greeted with bows and lowered eyes, the way the doors open before them, the way the tables are set for them, the way their place in the world is certain. And you know that you are not them, that you will never be them, that no matter how many battles you fight, no matter how many victories you win, no matter how much blood you spill, you will never have what they have. You will never stand where they stand. You will never command the respect that is given to them simply because of the accident of their birth. You know that your sword, sharp and quick and deadly, cannot carve a place for you among them. You know that your strength, your skill, your endurance, the long years you have given to the road, the cold, the hunger, the fear, mean nothing to those who hold the power, who hold the land, who hold the titles that you can never claim. Asterisk, you learn quickly that in the eyes of those who hire you, you are a tool. You are a means to an end, a way to fill the ranks when the levy does not bring enough men, a way to add sword to the field when the battle is near, a way to take the blows that would otherwise fall on those whose lives are valued more, whose deaths would mean more, whose names would be remembered. You are paid to fight, to kill, to bleed, to die if necessary. And when the battle is over, when the field is quiet, when the victory has been claimed and the dead have been counted, your name will not be among those spoken with reverence, with sorrow, with honor. You will not be given a place in the songs they sing, in the stories they tell, in the prayers they offer for the souls of the fallen. You will be left where you fall, your body stripped of anything worth taking, your name unspoken, your memory fading with the morning mist as the army moves on, as the world continues, as the lords return to their halls, as the peasants return to their fields, as the battles continue elsewhere with other men, with other mercenaries who will take your place, who will swing their sword for silver, who will bleed and die as you did, and who will be forgotten just as quickly. You are expendable. You are replaceable. You are a shadow that passes across the field, that vanishes with the dawn, that leaves no mark, that holds no weight in the world. You are a reminder of the violence that lies beneath the surface of every field, of the hunger that drives men to war, of the cruelty that the world demands from those who have nothing to lose, nothing to hold, nothing to return to. Asterisk, when the campaigns end, when the wars pause, when the lords no longer need your sword, you are left with nothing but your worn boots, your tattered cloak, your sword that has seen too many battles, your body marked with scars that ache in the cold, your mind filled with the memories of fields stained red, of nights spent beneath the cold sky, of days spent walking roads that never led to a place you could stay. You return to the world of the living, but you do not belong there. You are not welcomed with open arms. You are not greeted as a hero. You are not offered a place at the table, a place by the fire, a place to rest. You are a mercenary, and the world sees the stains on your hands, the hunger in your eyes, the violence in your step, the desperation that clings to you like the scent of smoke from the fires you have slept beside. You try to find work, swinging your sword for those who can pay, guarding merchants on the road, standing watch over gates, hunting down those who have been marked by the lords for death. But the silver is thin, the work is hard, the days are long, and the world does not see you as one of them, does not welcome you, does not care for the years you have given, for the blood you have spilled, for the part of your soul you have lost to the hunger, to the cold, to the fear, to the road. And so you walk, always, because there is nothing else to do, because there is nowhere else to go, because there is no place that will hold you, that will welcome you, that will see you as anything other than what you are, a mercenary, a sword for hire, a shadow that moves through the world, living from day to day, from breath to breath, from dawn to dawn. You walk because you must, because the road is the only place that belongs to you, because the endless sky is the only roof you know, because the cold earth is the only bed you have, because the promise of silver is the only hope you carry, because the life you live is the only life you have, and you have learned to endure, to persist, to survive, even when survival means nothing more than waking to see another dawn beneath a sky that does not care, on a road that does not end. Chapter 9, Harsh Punishment if Captured. There is a coldness in the air that has nothing to do with the weather, a chill that seeps into your bones even when the sun is high, even when the road is dry beneath your feet, even when your cloak is wrapped tightly around your shoulders. It is a coldness of fear, quiet and constant, that walks beside you with every step you take, that whispers in the back of your mind when you close your eyes to rest, that breathes down your neck when you pass through towns where your face is unknown, where your presence is unwelcome, where your life can change in the space of a single breath. It is the fear of capture, the fear of what comes when the world turns against you, when the battle is lost, when the enemy is victorious, when your sword is no longer enough to protect you, when your feet can no longer carry you to safety, when your luck runs out as it must, as it will, as it does for every man who lives the life you live. In the world you inhabit, where titles and bloodlines carry weight, where names and banners protect those who bear them, you are nothing more than a tool, a weapon, a hired hand whose value ends the moment the silver stops flowing, the moment the battle is lost, the moment your captors see who you truly are, a mercenary, a man without a lord to ransom him, without a family to pay for his life, without a place in the world that demands his return. Knights taken in battle are held with care, their armor removed carefully, their wounds tended to, their names recorded, their families notified, their ransoms negotiated with the promise of gold and land and favors in return for their freedom. They are prisoners, yes, but prisoners who are fed, who are allowed to heal, who are given the dignity of their station, who are treated with a respect that is not truly for them, but for the name they carry, for the blood in their veins, for the power their families hold. You are not given that dignity. You are not given that respect. When you are taken, when your sword is knocked from your hand, when your knees hit the ground, when the ropes are tied around your wrists, when you are dragged from the field where your comrades lie broken and bleeding, there is no promise of ransom, no promise of mercy, no promise of a future beyond the next dawn. You are dragged through the mud, your head bowed, your body aching from the blows you have taken, your mind reeling from the screams you have heard, from the cries of men who have fallen beside you, from the silence that follows when the battle is over and the victors move among the fallen, taking what they wish, killing those who still breathe, binding those they choose to keep for their purposes. You are brought before a captain, before a lord, before a man who looks at you with cold eyes, who sees the dirt on your skin, the blood on your clothes, the hunger in your face, the emptiness in your eyes, and who knows that you are nothing, that you are no one, that your life has no worth beyond what he chooses to give it. And often, that worth is nothing at all. You hear the sentence pass quietly, without ceremony, without hesitation, without the weight of sorrow or regret. You are to be executed, hanged from the nearest tree, your body left as a warning to others, as a message to those who would take up arms for silver, as a reminder that the world has no mercy for those who live by the sword without the protection of title or land or family. Asterisk, they do not see you as a soldier, as a man who fights for his living, as a man who carries a sword because the world offers him no other way to survive. They see you as a criminal, as a bandit, as a thief with a blade, as a danger to the order they wish to impose, to the peace they claim to protect, to the power they hold in their hands. They call you names as they drag you through the streets, as they tie your hands, as they push you to your knees in the dirt, as they prepare the rope that will take your life. They call you bandit, murderer, scum, dog, a curse upon the land, a stain upon the fields where they wish to plant their crops, upon the roads where they wish to walk safely, upon the villages where they wish to sleep without fear. You hear the words and you feel the weight of them, the sting of them, the truth of them, because you know that in their eyes, you're all these things, that in their world, you have no place, that in their world, you are the enemy, not because of who you are, but because of what you represent. Hunger, fear, violence, the reminder that safety is an illusion, that peace is fragile, that the world can be broken in a single night by men like you, men who take up swords because they must, because the world has left them with nothing else. And as they prepare to end your life, as they stand around you, as they watch with eyes that are hard and cold, you understand that there is nothing you can say, nothing you can do, nothing you can offer that will change what is coming, because they've already decided who you are, and what you deserve. Asterisk, there are no laws to protect you, no rights to defend you, no codes to save you when the world turns against you. The laws that protect knights, that protect lords, that protect those with names and titles and land, do not protect you. The rights that are written in the codes of war, that promise safety for prisoners, that promise dignity for the defeated, do not extend to you. You are outside the law, outside the protection of the world, outside the promise of mercy that might be granted to others. When you are taken, when you are captured, when you are bound and dragged before your captors, you have no shield to raise, no word to speak, no rights to claim. Your fate is in the hands of those who hold the rope, who sharpen the blade, who decide whether you will live or die. And you know that more often than not, they will choose death. You have seen it before in the fields where men are hanged from trees, their bodies swaying in the wind, their faces turned toward the sky, their eyes empty, their mouths open in silent screams. You have seen it in the ditches where bodies are thrown, covered in mud and blood, left for the crows and the flies, forgotten by the world, unmarked, unnamed, unclaimed. You have seen it in the pits where the dead are burned, the smoke rising into the sky, the ashes carried away by the wind, the fire consuming the bodies of those who once walked beside you, who once shared your bread, who once laughed around the fire, who once fought at your side. And you know that this is the fate that waits for you if you are captured, if your sword fails you, if your feet stumble, if your luck runs out. You know that there is no promise of safety, no promise of ransom, no promise of tomorrow. You know that the road you walk is a road that can end at any moment, in any place, beneath any sky. And so you walk carefully, you fight fiercely, you run when you must, you hide when you can, you do what you must to survive, because you know that survival is the only promise you can make to yourself, because you know that the world will not save you, because you know that the world does not care. You walk with the fear of capture in your heart, with the knowledge of what awaits you if you fall, because you are a mercenary, and this is the price you pay, the risk you accept, the burden you carry, the truth you live with every day, every night, every step you take on the road that leads you forward, always forward, until the end comes. Conclusion. And so the road continues, long and quiet beneath the dawn sky, winding across fields heavy with mist, through forests where the leaves whisper secrets, over hills where the wind hums softly in your ears. The life of a mercenary was never the tale of freedom and glory that some imagine, never the story of adventure without cost, never the promise of power without pain. It was hunger pressed into thin bodies, cold that settled deep into bones, fear that walked quietly in the night, waiting for the wrong step, the wrong moment, the wrong breath. It was the endless weight of uncertainty, the sharp edge of shame, the taste of stolen bread on a dry tongue, the cold eyes of those you passed, the silent judgment that followed every step you took on muddy roads. It was a knowledge that the world did not care for your survival, that the silver you fought for could not buy you safety, that the battles you won could not buy you a place to belong. And yet they walked, step by step, breath by breath, dawn after dawn, with hope flickering quietly in the spaces between fear and hunger, with dreams they barely dare to speak, with the soft promise that maybe tomorrow they might find rest. So, as you close your eyes tonight, let these stories drift softly around you like the morning mist, carrying you gently into sleep, reminding you that even in the harshest paths, there's a quiet courage of simply continuing, of taking the next step, of breathing the next breath, until the dawn comes once more. Once again, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, so we have more motivation to produce better quality products. And now, good night.